Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
My guest today is Megan Nilsen. She is a Kingdom Life coach, host of Kingdom Life Coaching Podcast, author, and retreat speaker who lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado. She offers Christ-centered coaching for those seeking kingdom alignment and strategy during a transitional season in faith, relationships, or vocational calling. She loves discovering and extracting from what God has placed in the hearts of women to help them walk in greater confidence, fulfillment, and purpose. She has launched her coaching business in 2020 and empowers women of all ages to listen to the voice of God and make big, bold moves for greater influence and impact. You can find her enjoying a Broadway musical, a downhill skiing in Colorado with her hubby and friends, or traveling around the country to visit her young adult children. We welcome Megan to the podcast. Well, Megan, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Good to have you on. I'm going to ask you my favorite question that every guest has to answer before we go any further. And that is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I've listened to a few episodes, so I was like, okay, I better be ready. The thing that came to me when I was pondering this is that love is not a zero-sum game. And I especially think, biblical love and kingdom life is not a zero-sum game. I feel like I learned this most prominently in parenthood. So after my husband and I were married 4 or 5 years and had our first baby, and those babies, they come in and they kind of turn your life upside down in the best and hardest way. And I realized I was getting really frustrated with, well, I'm doing this and you get to do that. And what, it felt like a very much like a keeping score mentality. And I was really convicted just by a mentor. And I was just talking about this. And of course, lovingly, they was listening to me, but they said, life is not a zero-sum game. So the more you want to keep score and I win and you lose, you will forever be frustrated, and you'll be frustrated in your relationships, and you'll feel like you're banging your head against the wall. But if you can understand that love is not I win and you lose, how can we both win? That has really changed my life from that point forward.
Oh, I love that. That's insightful. I always tell my guests, when you share your best piece of advice, it may appear later on other things that, after the first time I'll give you credit, third time it's like, as I've always said.
Right. I've been living this for a while now, and it comes back to me. That scorecard, that scorecard likes to pop up in my head from time to time. But it does. It's not helpful.
No, it really isn't.
Mm-mm.
I'm always curious too, people like yourself who have accomplished a lot of things in life. We don't ever get where we are without some people along the way who appear in our lives, sometimes just momentarily. But who are some people that may be a mentor for you or inspired you on your journey?
Yeah. Is it fair to say my husband?
Sure.
Yeah, I am really, really blessed to be married to an incredible guy. I feel like we've grown up together. We were married when we were 22 years old. And I'm really thankful that God has grown us in the same direction. But I really feel like mentor-wise and cheerleader-wise, like he's always pushing me to just be a better version of myself and try some new things and go for it, invest here and take that risk. And so his support and his encouragement has really helped me. And then I think outside of family, just Bible study leaders. I've been, in some sort of parachurch ministry or church ministry for a very long time. And there have been several women, maybe 2 to 3 decades older than me, that just are living a life filled with Christ. And I look at them and they've just encouraged me. And I think I want to be like her. And I think that the main thing that I've noticed with all these women is that they spend a lot of time with the Lord. They spend a lot of time in the Word, and they spend a lot of time listening to God's voice. And so I have tried to follow and walk in their shoes as best I can, because I see the difference. I see the fruit that has harvested over all those years.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And those people are so special in our lives too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So tell us about your journey becoming a Kingdom Life Coach and what inspired you to start your own coaching business in 2020.
Oh goodness, I'm chuckling because it's always the long version, right? It's always a convergence of all the seeds that God has dropped along the way and grown and watered. But I think the best way to say it is that our story in our family changed in 2011 when we brought our two youngest kids home from Ethiopia. So we have two biological children. They were in grade school at the time, maybe third and fifth grade. And we adopted our two younger kids. They were 5 and 7 from Ethiopia. And we had been really praying about our family growth, and felt really called into this journey of adoption. And when the kids came home, it was very, very difficult. And this is not an uncommon story. I think many of you and your listeners know that inherent in adoption and blended family is trauma, right? So there's a lot of brokenness and abandonment and all the things that come along with that. And while we were prepared sort of in our head through quote unquote training, nothing can train you for the experience of living it in your home and just seeing the brokenness of the kids. And I really began to think, what are we doing? I can't mother these kids. I'm doing a horrible job. I think we might have messed up everybody's lives. They should have stayed there. And we didn't. We didn't do the right thing. We didn't do the right thing because this is really, really hard, and I don't see the light. But we thought, God, we thought you were calling us into this. And so there was a moment in there where I was just really kind of at the bottom, and really despairing and overwhelmed. And my husband, again, back to the mentor. I mean it the best way. He's like, I think you need to see somebody, because I was just a mess and really, really hard. And he said, I think you need to talk to somebody. I think you need to see a counselor. So I went to a counselor, and I sat on the couch and I just kind of boo-hooed through the first 30 minutes, right? This is so hard. I don't know what to do. I think I can't imagine sustaining life like this. And she listened. And then after I was finished, she looked at me just straight in the eyes and she said, motherhood's not your highest and greatest calling, right?
Wow.
And I said, no. I didn't know that, because guess what? Not only I had 2 kids, now I got 4 kids. Like, this is my big calling. This is all I'm doing 24/7, 365 days a year. What do you mean? And she said, yes, of course, it's an amazing, incredible calling to be a mother. But when you make motherhood, or insert the thing in your life, when you make this your sole identity, you will be frustrated, because you're working from your flesh and you're working from your expectations and the world's expectations. She said, it's not until you understand that your highest calling is to be a daughter of the King, to be filled up with the love of Christ and really walking by the peace of the Spirit, that you will understand that everything can flow from there. Your primary and anchored identity is in the Lord. And then when you get your cup filled up with His love and His grace and His forgiveness and His peace, then your marriage, your parenting, your vocation, everything, your friendships come out from the overflow of that place. So I tell this story over and over again because it is a moment in time in my life where I feel like the Holy Spirit, through this counselor, she didn't pull any punches. I mean, she was very direct and clear with me, but I just felt like it was like the loving conviction of the Lord to say, you have a turning point. Do you want to truly surrender to me and get filled up with my peace and love, and then I will guide you? It doesn't mean life's going to get easier. Life did not get easier that day. I mean, it's still parenthood, it's still messy, it's kids, it's all the things, but my perspective shifted. And so from that time, it's been, 12 or more years now, I have been on this sort of insatiable quest. What does it look like to walk by the Spirit instead of by the flesh? And the Lord has really lovingly highlighted and shown me some of the things of control and anxiety and expectation and people pleasing, that I was just so familiar with and so comfortable with. And so to answer your question, how did life coaching start? I feel like in the spiritual formation vein, my growth was so dynamic that I thought, oh my goodness, I would love to help other people kind of walk in this, uncover this for themselves. And I had been, but previously before kids, a school counselor. And so it was kind of taking that guidance and mentoring and school counselor bent and talent and overlaying it with the spiritual growth that I was feeling, and started my coaching in 2020. That's another testimony of how it became a business, but that is started my writing, coaching, podcasting, everything has kind of grown out of that space.
That's amazing. And I love the fact that you talk about how you want to help people kind of reveal how God is going to bless them through their life with your coaching. So kind of how do you infuse faith into coaching? Because I've done coaching with especially professional church workers, and it's always harder because sometimes the coaching is, like you said, you thought this was your highest calling. You thought this was what God had in mind for you to do. And sometimes they're at a point where this wasn't what they should be doing going forward. Now they have to re-identify what is that thing that God wants them to do. And it may not be pastoral ministry or teaching. It may be something else. And how do you help them see that just because this is not what you hoped it was going to be, doesn't mean that God's done using you. So how do you infuse faith into what you do with life coaching?
Well, I think that the first question that comes to mind when working with anybody who wants to come at it from a faith-based perspective is, how do you hear God's voice? What does that look like for you? Do you feel like you're hearing him? Are you, I start laying the foundation of that conversation, because I don't know the answer to what your next step is. I don't know where God's calling you. I mean, we know love God and love people. These are universal commandments for everybody, right? So that's for all of us. But when it comes to the unique path and what he's positioned you to do on the earth very uniquely and individually, I don't know the answer to that. But I think the first question is, when you sit in the quiet of your spirit and when you are praying or listening, what are you sensing? What are you hearing? And one answer could be, well, that's a good question, because I actually don't sit and I don't pray and I can't hear God. Okay. Well, then what does it look like for you to listen? We begin to craft some of those practices of silence and solitude and, rhythms. But some people already have an inkling of, well, I do think I might have heard this from the Lord. I'm sensing this. Okay, let's talk about that. So I feel like the faith-based coaching that I'm bringing, very honestly, it's pretty simple. It's a safe container. It's a safe space for someone to sit just like we're talking and say what's really on their mind. So I think what happens, and maybe you have encountered this in the church world, is there are so many outside expectations or perceived expectations that have been overlaid and are kind of like blanketing or covering what this person is truly sensing in their spirit. So a lot of times, again, it's like the layers of the onion. You kind of peel it back. And just like onions make you cry when you peel them, that sometimes happens when you start peeling back the layers. People start to get emotional, and you're like, why are you getting emotional? So I think the faith-based stuff is, how are you hearing God's voice? And then connecting the dots with, what are you sensing and feeling in your spirit? Sometimes we're so disconnected from our actual bodies and our feelings that they're very separate and siloed. And so I try to bring all of that back into congruency, back into alignment, connected, so that we can begin to see the pieces of the puzzle and what is their next step? Or could it be?
When you have someone who maybe they've been distant from God for a while, and you ask that question, how do you hear God's voice? And they go, I really don't have any idea. How do you lead them to begin to discover or reconnect so they can hear the voice of God?
That's a good question, because it definitely happens. It's actually not uncommon. So really, I think the first thing is to just start with some silence, and just, I will pray for them. I will pray for them, and I will ask the Lord to begin to remind them that He loves them, and remind them that He's speaking to them. And we'll sit in silence for a minute, and I'll say something like, Lord, what do you want this person to know about how you see him, how you've designed him? What's a word that you want to share with him about his calling or who he is? And we just sit. And then I'll say, did you hear anything? Oh, I don't know. Well, maybe I did. Okay, what did you maybe hear? Well, I heard like leader. Okay, so it's just beginning to create the space to practice, and we just do it right then and there. I don't think they have to go away and do all these, these things, these steps to get there. We can start just listening. And I think the biggest thing is building trust again. So many people they think they don't hear God because they have experienced so many difficulties, or there's been um, so many things coming at them that have eroded their own self-trust. They don't trust themselves. They don't think they can make good decisions. They don't. And so a lot of it's building back the trust that you are beloved. God does speak to you. You can trust what He's putting in your soul. But then once they hear something, this is the very nuanced and I think tricky dynamic with hearing God's voice and being in the church, is that I think it's been so abused and twisted. And I am the first person to say, I am not God. I am not God's voice in your life. And so it's tricky. And I feel like I'm walking in eggshells a little bit every time I do it, but I'm like, I know that He says in His word, the shepherd speaks to his sheep. The sheep know His voice. Okay, what does His voice sound like? And really getting that congruent with the Bible, with Scripture, with the character of God, and starting to really parse out those nuances. So, in some ways, it's a simple answer, but then it also, I feel the complicated nature of it, because it's so mysterious and confusing, and it has been twisted and abused in many ways.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's interesting, because when we try to reconnect with God, even though God hasn't moved from us, we're often the ones who tune God out, is hard sometimes to get back on track. I love the fact that there's a term you talk about, kingdom alignment. I sometimes think that sometimes our separation from God is when we do hear the voice of God clearly, but we don't really want to go on the path that God has for us. So it's easier for us to pull like an Elijah and go, I'm going to go the opposite direction, or a Jonah. I'm going to go run to Nineveh. And if I go there, I don't have to hear God's voice, and whatever the scary thing God has in mind for me to do.
How did it work out for that
guy?
Yeah. How'd that work out for you, Jonah?
Whatever that scary thing is you have in mind for me to do, God, I can just not do that and find my own path. And I wonder, how do you help someone who you realize that what's going on in their life is a kingdom alignment issue? How do you coach them to figure out what that thing is God is leading them to do?
Well, first of all, you have a choice. I mean, Jonah had a choice. So when I'm coaching people in kingdom alignment, I constantly remind them, like, God is not forcing Himself on you. He has died for you. He loves you. He's given you the kingdom, but you don't have to choose it. And if you don't choose it, what are you experiencing? Because I think truly the fruit of the Spirit comes from following the Lord, from living in the kingdom. You feeling love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness. So if you can line up with those things, then I would say this is kingdom alignment. There is fruit coming by the peace and the love of God and the Holy Spirit. There are 9, adjectives, verbs. Wait, what? All of a sudden I got stuck with the grammar. But there are 9 words right there that we can focus in on. Are you experiencing these things, yes or no? And it doesn't mean like I always feel love and I always feel peace, but when we are listening to God's voice and we are following his invitation, it will lead us toward the peace and the love and the kindness and the gentleness. If you out of alignment, you're out of alignment because you're feeling the opposite of those things. And if you go into Galatians 5, right, it talks very much of, is Galatians 5, I think, is the fruit of the Spirit. Okay. Whew, thanks, Reverend Doctor. I was like sweating over here. But there's a very key list. This is what it looks like to be out of alignment. It is dark and it is treacherous and it is heavy. This is what it looks like to be in alignment. And so really right there on the pages of scripture, Paul is giving us a fantastic template for what is kingdom alignment. And then the way that plays out in your relationship, in your home, with where God has you in the world, that's the coaching part. That's the part where it's like, okay, here's my marriage and my parenting and where I'm living. Are these things moving in the trajectory toward the fruit of the Spirit? When you play this out, this decision, can you see a harvest that would bring this kind of tree, this kind of fruit? Or when you play out this decision, do you see yourself in the belly of a whale? It's pretty dark over there, So kingdom alignment to me, like that's a fantastic template in Galatians 5 to think, what's the difference?
So one of the things you do is you help women to discover exactly what God has put on their hearts. So maybe give us one of your clients, but not their name, just maybe their story of how you help them find that kingdom alignment in their life.
I love this. There's so many different nuances here. I think one thing, like one client I'm actually working with right now is she came to me because she's in a job that she feels overworked and underpaid. She has 3 kids that she is, mothering and wants to really take care of her kids. And she says, and I want to follow God's plan with my life and my job. Should I stay in this job? But I don't know if I can hear his voice. So she kind of brought the trifecta of things. It is wanting to hear God's voice. It is wanting to follow his plan. And the way that this is presenting is I am burned out. I'm absolutely from top to bottom exhausted. And I don't know if I should keep doing this. So we've been working together for a few months and really uncovering some core issues that need to be realized and addressed in a really safe space. Everything from kind of money mindset, like what does it mean to make money? What do you need for your lifestyle? And money is one of those things when I'm coaching, especially Christian women, it can get kind of confusing because there have been some understandings in the church about, that money is evil. Okay, we all know the love of money is evil. Money itself isn't evil. Money is how we get from here to there and how we put eggs in our refrigerator, right? Like it's so we've been uncovering some money stuff that she's needed to talk to her husband about and figure out, like, do I really need to be working? If I need to be working, how much money do I need to make? That's a huge thing. And then secondarily, the calling of teaching. So, a lot of teachers feel overworked and underpaid. But as we have been kind of pulling at these threads, she's coming to this place where she's thinking, okay, maybe it isn't that I need to leave teaching. Is it the school? Is it the vocation? What else could I be doing? So it's just beginning to create a space where you can dream and imagine what your life could be like, and really helping people understand some of those root issues that are keeping them really bound and stuck. And then who do they need to talk to about this? A lot of times it's with their spouse. So we uncover a lot of conversations that they've actually never talked about with their spouse. They've never shared with their spouse. They've never shared the dreams with their spouse. I talked to one woman the other day who's considering coaching with me. She wants to start a business. She's been working for somebody else. She has this dream of a business of organizing and helping people as a personal organizer. And I said, well, what does your husband think? And she said, he doesn't know. I said, he doesn't know. I said, how about that's the first thing you do is just share why haven't you shared your dream with him? I don't know, because it feels vulnerable. It feels real. I don't know if it's real. So it's fascinating where we start there, but it's really, really fun to dig for some dreams and really uncover some of the things that God's put in people's spirit and some passions that he's put there that they, for one reason or another, it's out of fear that they haven't walked in it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I love
it takes
that.
some time. It can take some time to get moving in the right direction, but ultimately it's really great.
So you've also started a podcast along with the same, like Kingdom Life Coaching. Tell us about your podcast and what kind of topics do you cover on it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. And I love being a guest on your podcast, just talking. I started the podcast. I just hit my 100th episode, by the way.
Congratulations.
So yay for that. Thank you. I heard that 4% of podcasts reach 100 episodes. So I don't know what episode you're on, but
360.
You know, there we go. See, you're way ahead of me. But I feel like getting to 100 felt like, climbing that mountain.
It was.
Yeah. So I think the main thing to say about Kingdom Life Coaching is really helping. I do solo episodes where I'm teaching or sharing what the Lord has revealed to me in Scripture or through life, or interviewing people, such as people like yourself, and saying, how do you hear God's voice? Talk to me about your testimony. How do you know it was him and what's that look like? So we really get anchored in our identity in Christ. So that kind of going back to my conversion story of identity, and then aligning with God's voice. What does it look like to hear him? How do we know if it's his voice or my voice? Like, what's the difference? And then ultimately really sharing ways and compelling ways to get activated. Like, what would it look like for you to take your next bold step of faith? What does that mean? Does that mean apologizing to someone in your life? Or does that mean quitting your job and starting something new? It can be all kinds of things. What does it look like for you? So constantly taking it back to the personal invitation.
So let's dig deeper into that. So what are some strategies you use when you're helping people discover that kingdom alignment?
Strategies. You'd be surprised, Dr. Keith, Reverend Doctor. People just need a place to talk. I mean, honestly, that is a strategy, is to just be a safe enough person that someone feels like they can share the honest truth with you. Call it a strategy. I don't know what, but when I can come and I say to people, I'm a neutral zone. I am not anybody in your life that has an agenda for you. I'm not your mom. I'm not your sister. I'm not your daughter or your husband. Like, I don't have an agenda. I am neutral. The only thing that I have an agenda about is that you understand that you are loved by the God of the universe and he has a plan for your life. That is not up for debate. Everything else is on the table. So one strategy is to say, if you could take your life and just put all the cards on the table and you ask God, okay, show me what's going on in my life. What do I see happening in my relationships, in my vocation, where I live? Okay, what needs to go? What is it in a past season that, if you're really honest with yourself, is not for today? You know that it's time. It's old wineskin. It's time to go. How could you lovingly and gently release those things and those spaces? Then what is he asking you to pick back up? Which cards would he ask you to pick back up? And maybe he's saying, hey, draw from the pile. There is a new card coming your way. And so I don't know if you resonate with this metaphor or not. The other thing I say would be like pausing the screen of the movie of your life. If you could pause the movie of your life for a minute and just look at the scene, what is happening? What do you notice? What are the things that are really out of whack? And if you were watching your own life, you'd be like, no, don't do that. Don't go down in the basement in the dark. There's, you know what I mean? Like those horror movies, you're like, why are you doing that? Why are you going down there? Like, if you were watching your life, are there things where you'd think, why are you doing that? And then are you things that you think, that's really, really beautiful? How could we grow that? So when you say strategies, I mean, I think that is the first thing. And it's an incredible place to start, because it just, people open up I don't know for you specifically. I'd be curious, when's the last time you just sat and talked and dreamed and felt like anything was possible? But a lot of people don't do that because life is busy and you're already in, on this train track. And so what would it look like to hop tracks? And I hear a lot of people say, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that, but I can't. And so my first question is, why can't you? Well, ABC, money, time, this and that. Okay, but what if you could? So I think getting curious, getting honest, and then starting to imagine possibilities. That's where I usually start. If you want to consider this a strategy.
No, what I used to do, and I haven't done this in a while, it made me think about it when talking to you actually, was I would take one day a month. I would go to my favorite Greek restaurant. This was in Milwaukee. And
Mm-hmm.
I would get a cup of coffee and a breakfast, and I'd take a legal pad along with my pen, and I would just sit in silence and just go, okay, what should I be doing next? What vision does God have for me to pursue next? And then I would go back and just spend the morning doing that. And I go back to work and I feel energized because I just took time to just like, I'm not, the pad's empty. There's nothing, there's no agenda, there's no squares on it. You fill it out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there was some amazing things that I hadn't thought or imagined or envisioned, and walked away with a clear plan for what's next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I love it. One of my very favorite verses is Habakkuk 2:2. Write the vision, make it plain, so that he who reads it may run with it. Like how can you continue to go back and create a vision for your life? And I think the other side of that coin is I don't have a vision. Are you kidding me? I'm taking care of my aging parents and I'm taking care of my kids and I have to go to work every day. Okay, but how can you still create the vision for how God's using you in those space? Because there are negotiables and non-negotiables in our life. Sometimes we're in a space and a place where we are the person to take care of that thing, but sometimes we just assume that we're the person that has to take care of that thing. And coaching helps you really discern, yep, it's me, this is my calling, is where I need to be. Or maybe I can actually step out of that, bring somebody else in. So, you know, you just got to get people thinking outside the box. And I need coaches myself because I get stuck in the same line of thinking.
So here's a vision question for you.
Hmm.
What do you envision? How do you envision expanding your impact and reaching more women in the future?
Why you go do that to me? What? You're asking me to be vulnerable? What's my vision?
It's just you and I on the
Oh,
podcast. No one else is going to hear it.
I know. I can only see you, so it's great. Um, oh gosh, I think. Ooh, you can see me squirming over here. As a content creator, like I feel like if I'm truly honest, God speaks to me and he gives me messages that I want to write about, I want to talk about in my podcast or coaching. And so the constant kind of invitation, faith over fear for me is to put myself out there. Like if I wrote a book, Untangled Faith, about hearing God's voice and journaling with him in a companion journal. Like my vision would be, could that get into churches? Could that become a Bible study or a book study that more people have access to? And it's tricky because when you're not when you don't have thousands and millions of followers and haven't gone viral and this and that, like I think that's where the narrative of the world is, that's never going to be a possibility for you because you're not, fill in the blank with some Christian superstar celebrity influencer. And I think, okay, that's true. But if God has purpose for it and it can have more impact, if my podcast can grow and share with more people, or I can have kingdom collaborations with you, then the vision is getting more of God's life and love into the world. And I don't know always how to do that, but I'm constantly asking God, who do I need to meet? How can we collaborate? Where do I need to invest to do this? Because I could easily just kind of shut it down and be like, well, that's enough. But I don't think it is. So I envision growing and having bigger impact that way.
That's awesome. I love that. So here's my second favorite question. If you were listening to the podcast, you know this was coming too.
Uh-oh.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I think I want my legacy to be she pointed me to Jesus. It sounds simple, but I want anybody that knows me or knew me or reads my stuff to think she helped me know myself and know God better, and I'm thankful for that. So however that moves out through the generations, I would love that.
Where can people connect with you and follow your podcast?
Yeah. The simplest way is go to my website, Megan B as in boy, Nilsen, NILSEN.com. So MeganBNilsen.com. And you can see my books and studies and things like that. Of course, hop over to Kingdom Life Coaching Podcast and find me over there, just talking week after week, sharing testimonies and God's vision. And I have some freebies on my website too. I have something called, how do you know if what you're hearing is God's voice or your voice? That's the 5 questions to help you know that. And then I've got another thing over there. So MeganNilsen.com/resources about discovering your God-sized dream. I talk a lot about God-sized dreams and how would someone know if they have one, what it is, and what they could potentially do to walk in that. So
Love it.
I'm on socials, Facebook, Instagram. Yep.
So as we wrap up this great conversation, what key takeaways do you want to leave with the audience from our talk today?
I think what I am sensing is whoever is listening to just not be afraid to get real and create that vision and ask God, what is that vision for your life and for your family in the context of where you live and what you're doing and what He's called you to do. There are no small things in the kingdom. So figure out what keeps you energized and aligned and connected with God and with people and go do that. What do you need to do to go do that? If you're listening to this and you're like, I know what it is, I'm ready to go do it, and you're a self-starter, go do it. But I think for a lot of us, it's like, I kind of know what that is, but I have a lot of questions and I'm not sure what needs to go and what needs to stay or what needs to be added. Then figure out, who do you need to talk to? Who is God providing for you that will help you on that journey? Because most of us, we need each other. We need help. So go find what that is for you. Who is that for you? And connect.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, Megan, thanks so much for coming on and sharing what you do and getting us to think about how we can make sure we are kingdom aligned with God and listening to His voice and being open to His direction in our life. So thank you for what you do.
It's my honor. So I'm working it out just like everybody else. So thanks.
You have a blessed day.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Bridge Builder. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help support the podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram @bkeithhaney and on Getter and Twitter @RevHeadpin. Thanks again and tune in next time.